today, talking to George Thornton and some of the other folks that run the Turkey Federation. They expect 40,000 people to attend this event here in Nashville. That's a lot of income that's generated by the programs that y'all and the staff have put together. So the sportsmen and women of Tennessee should be proud of what they're doing there. I also would mention the Archery Trades Association met here about 3 weeks ago, and they sold out the Music City Center, the brand new place that's supposedly big enough to handle the NRA convention that's coming in, I think next year or the year after. But anyway, this wanted you to know that's another big one. The whole Archery Trades Association, is the most well-attended one they've ever had, and this was when it was 7 degrees high on one day, and they said if it had not been for the weather, they expected it would probably have not been matched even in the future by the number of people attending. So did want to tell you that part, and some of y'all met Curtis Taylor last night. Curtis, the director in West Virginia. Curtis chairs the committee for the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies that deals with trust funds. Since Curtis and I both went to UT together and have known each other for a long time, I ping on him pretty hard to try to help us out on where we are in our negotiations with the Fish and Wildlife Service. I know Curtis can't flatly say this, but last night he said, we're meeting next week in Georgia with Fish and Wildlife Service. We're going to fix this. This thing is going to get fixed. And I don't know exactly what that means, but I at least know we've got people working pretty hard on the inside and with what the legislature is doing with the resolution. And then I have a meeting with the chief of the Federal Aid Division in about 3 weeks. So hopefully we'll get something resolved. I don't know to what end. We may end up exactly like where we are, but it won't be without effort. I just want to mention those things to you.
Director Carter.
Yes, sir.
Before you go any further, there's probably one other acknowledgement we need to make. I believe it's yourself, Curtis, and who is the other executive director?
Oh, Bob Duncan in Virginia.
Bob Duncan. I don't know how many of you all know this, but the 3 of them are graduates of the University of Tennessee. It is unheard of to have 3 executive directors from one university overseeing fish and wildlife in this country, and UT has acknowledged that in a great way, and that includes Ed Carter. So I think we ought to give him a round of applause for all of his.
Y'all started the brick by brick, correct?
We did. We're mortified. It's the best I could do on a short notice. I think that's about all. Oh, I did want to mention one other thing, the Shikar Safari Award. Darren talked a lot about that. Also wanted to tell you, in addition to presenting awards, they really do a lot in the state of Tennessee, especially down in Commissioner Watson's area. And that club area, every year they have a big auction. That money goes back. If you remember, they were here to present some money to the Elk Foundation, not the Elk Foundation, to the Elk program here in Tennessee. They also work hand in hand with the local officers down there and refurbishing and buying some of the robotic deer and so forth that's used in some of the enforcement programs. So they not only award people, but they get in there on a hands-on, boots on the ground type thing to help the programs go forward. I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. My role here this morning is to talk about the mobile app that we've talked about for some time now, that what was going to come, and finally it did come, and it's gone active. My role in it was to stand in the background and go, boy, that's really neat. So beyond that, I want to recognize those people that did. Most of the ideas I threw out didn't go very far. As to the University of Tennessee, I wanted to open up with a big burst and play Rocky Top, and I thought that would get everybody's attention, and they reminded me that UT's not the only school in Tennessee, and I was struck to hear that. I didn't understand that. But
Can you repeat that last? What'd you say? I thought I heard you said something.
See, I told you it's a well-kept secret. But Commissioner Cox is fidgeting. It's what happens when you go out of state to the school. I've lost control. Not that I ever had it, but anyway. Back to the mobile app thing here. It's what I wanted to point out to begin with, that there are several mobile apps in other states. That's hideous. there are a lot of mobile apps in some of the other states. What they did in developing theirs, they went to some company, and I hate to use the word cookie cutter, but they took what was there and said, we need to try to modify that to fit what we're going to do. Tennessee did not do that. Our IT folks, when we began into this, put together a team of people and both trying to figure out where we wanted to go, and they said, we're going to build this thing like it needs to be in Tennessee. So ours is unique in that it really was built from scratch. We went through a company, the Huntfish Buddy, and some of their personnel obviously worked hand in hand to do a lot of the background things, but we had so many people involved with this. It took 2 years to put it together. It's up and running, and I'll give you some figures here before we're through, but I wanted to acknowledge as much as anything else about the concept, the design, the development, all those things I kind of alluded to. I'm obviously not tech savvy enough to give you a lot of the details other than it's really good stuff. So with that technical term, I'll move on to tell you how the different divisions have worked inside the agency. First, the contributing to the IT division sections, which of course is where most of it's housed right now. Our GIS, which is responsible for coordinating all the things like find a check station, find a wildlife management area, find a hunters for the hungry processor, find a place to fish, find a boat ramp, and find a viewing area. All those things work off the GIS system that they administer, and it's built into that app so that when you pull one of those up, we actually were able to use that in our hearings down at the legislature. We had one or two of the senators that asked about specific boat ramps and specific wildlife management areas, and we said, we'll tell you how you can do that. You can just go to our app and you can pull that up, and anyway, we're able to highlight it there, and that works really great. They also did the development for the streamlining, all the functional concepts and the user interface designs, and the technical support staff that for the ongoing in-depth things that they were putting together in terms of the Apple and the Android platforms, which were done simultaneously as opposed to having one developed and a year later the other one comes along. As Michael May, our chief of that division, likes to say, we put the thing together and we said, break it. See what you can do to make this thing not work. So that testing is really amazing because when it goes and it's error-free, which it has been so far, and I think it will stay that way, that's really pushes the program forward, because if it goes forward and it doesn't work correctly, we lose people right off the bat. I'd also mention that in the Apple side of it, when you go to the Apple websites and it talks about the different apps that you can download and it rates them from 1 to 5 stars. I'm proud to say that the work that these people did, every single evaluation on the Apple website is a 5-star where it comes to the work that they did on the app. So that speaks for itself, I think. The management staff inside on the design and the development of the concepts, the coordinating logistics between all of our agency personnel and the different divisions and what each division thought should be in the app and how it should work, and also working with the Huntfish Buddy and then trying to coordinate that all into our reel system, because as you know, when something happens on the app, it automatically interfaces with our reel system so that any harvest data that goes in is automatically captured, and all of our personnel, our dispatchers, our officers, and the public that are using that particular part can go back and look and see what they've done over years once this thing develops in terms of harvest and what kind of day it was, what on and on. So all of that had to work and mesh, and they were able to do that. The contributing part that the I&E divisions put together, and this was that they were responsible for researching the vendors and hammering out all the initial design concepts, the ongoing advertisements and all the different media outlets that we're putting it through. They also did the pictorial and embedded video when the little raccoon runs out and disappears before the app comes off. That was done by our IT guys. Actually went over there one day and Todd had a picture of a raccoon up there, and he was using a mouse to cut it out of the picture that it was in. And I later came to find out that that's exactly what he was doing then, was taking it off of something else and trying to transpose it onto the app. So that in itself is pretty unique. The Huntfish Buddy folks, the organization that we worked with, the commercial group, agreed to take on this whole task, and as I said, mentioned before, to do both the Apple and Android at the same time. To my knowledge, that has not been something that's been done in any other state. When it went live, it was it was in November of 2013. The Android was shortly after, less than 4 days later, it went live as well. Initially, we had about 12,000 downloads that first month that it was out. Since that time, the downloads as of January the 31st were at 29,000, and I expect if we check today, it would be well over 30. So it's really being utilized by our personnel, by the public and our personnel as well. And this last, Darrell could give me better figures, but the percentage of check-ins that were done throughout this app was pretty significant in terms of big game harvest this particular year. So we know it's really being used. With that in mind, I'd like to call up some folks who were instrumental. There are a lot of people there in the background that we're not going to necessarily point out to you today, but people who really took a lead. And if I can just ask them to come up and ask Barry and Steve to help me with this. Don King, if you can take off your headphones and come up for a second. And if you guys would, that we have just a token of appreciation that we'd like to present to you all, and I'll go through the rest of the people as Don's coming up. Don Crawford, who's our assistant chief, can't be here today, but Jason Harmon, Todd Mazzaros, Stephanie Palm, who in our IT division, Stephanie can't be here today either. Jeanette Jones in the GIS. Lynn Barrett in IT and GIS as well. Tracy Porter, GIS also. Chelsea Broach. Jeff Green. Brian Sands. Shakri Hussain. Wilma Newsom. Rick Morris. And Michael May. These were kind of your varsity team that took this thing to the touchdown and put it into the end zone. So I just wanted to acknowledge these folks, and if I could, if you join me in a round of applause for what they've done.
Here we go.
Mr. Chairman, may I just say thank you? I don't want to interrupt the picture taking, but to the team here at the agency, I personally appreciate this app is awesome, and I want to say thank you on behalf of everybody on the commission for the entire agency effort. It's very impressive. I think we're living in a new world, and this is going to be very helpful for hunters and sportsmen and really all Tennesseans. So thank y'all.
That's Thank you, Commissioner Woodson. It's, the testament of how good the app is based on the fact that I can use it, so.
It is very intuitive.
Oh, no.
The button you think you should push is the button that you should push, and that's intentional, and I very
If I
much
can work it,
appreciate
anybody can work it, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as an aside, the reason Don Crawford's not here, he's out at the Wild Turkey Federation conducting archery in the school's first ever 3D tournament out there. So
Cool.
that's pretty, and it's the national archery in the school's first ever 3D tournament. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Director Carter, and thank you for the staff that put together that app. It's awesome, and it's like I say, it's so easy to use, and I've already checked 2 deer in on it and from the stand, and that's pretty awesome. So We appreciate that. All 6 of your, shouldn't have said that. All right. Jeff, comment. Any other comments? Okay. Well, then we'll just lead into Michael May, Chief of IT Division.
Thank you, Dr. Chairman, DDS et al. Extraordinaire. I have the privilege, and thank you again for everything you guys said about the mobile app. I appreciate it very much. I have the distinct pleasure to be here and the honor to be here to talk to you about our IT Professional of the Year Award. And this is the second time we've done it. We started a little over 2 years ago. And what we do is we put all of our management team together every quarter, about 8 of us, about 8 of them and me. And they get together and they nominate an individual out of their teams to me. And they focus on who's a specialist in their field, things like ethics in the workplace, teamwork, customer service, and all that type of stuff. And that's not everything, but those the main things that they look at. And they submit to me those nominations, and they're very, very competitive. I look at those, and they're very difficult for me to pick out somebody. But what I do is I look at it, and I finally pick somebody, and that'll be the quarterly award winner. And at the end of the year, obviously, I have 4 quarterly award winners, and I'll pick out of that the annual award. And that's it's much more difficult to pick that person because everybody who was a quarterly award winner should deserve and does deserve the annual award winner. And our quarterly award winners were this year for 2013, respectively, were B. Lee, Sandra Chesterfield, Jeff Green, and Tracy Porter. So, like I mentioned, it was really difficult to pick an individual. And this individual, Jeff Green, who won the award, I looked in addition to all of those things, he was in a unique situation, and we had a critical situation that occurred here in the IT section back in September. One of our supervisors was struck ill, and he's still out. And Jeff, that was his supervisor, Mark Ridings, who was struck ill. And one real quick note about Mark, he is doing much better. He's living back in Nashville. He's on fluids, and all indication is that he should be back to work in April. So just to let you know. So that's the real good news as well. So Jeff jumped up to the plate the entire time and came to all the management staff meetings, which we have weekly, to his dismay. And he really, really knocked it out of the park. He did what he needed to do, didn't care what he needed to do. And it was by that token, he ended up winning the award. And what I'd like to do is read you the citation. And it's the citation to accompany the award of IT Professional of the Year, 2013. Jeff Green distinguished himself by exceptional service as an Information Resource Support Specialist and Network Systems Administrator for the Information Technology Division of the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. During this period, Jeff was the primary technician responsible for the daily, weekly, and monthly ArcServe tape backup functions, including governing all Iron Mountain, off-site backup tape storage policies and procedures for all internally housed TWRA servers, including Active Directory file servers, Oracle, SQL, Internet, and GIS. In this capacity, Jeff devised a new procedure to image all servers and include these images with secure off-site storage for more efficient disaster recovery purposes. Jeff's insight and technical expertise has made him an outstanding resource that has directly contributed to the outstanding functionality of our network systems, as well as designing new disaster recovery procedures. In addition, Jeff has stepped up to the plate and demonstrated qualities of a genuine leader during the lengthy medical absence of his direct supervisor. As such, Jeff actively attends IT management meetings, provides critical strategic technical insight of network and disaster recovery responsibilities, and works in concert with other IT management team members without assistance from direct supervision. Jeff consistently goes above and beyond by volunteering to work outside of his major job responsibilities, being proactive in resolving potential issues before they become problems, and by helping others in need. Moreover, Jeff accomplished all the aforementioned responsibilities with a true, keen sense of true professionalism and expert attention to quality, while providing the highest level of genuinely courteous and heartfelt customer service. The distinctive accomplishments of Jeff Green reflect great credit upon himself, our Information Technology Division, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and the state of Tennessee. So without further ado, Jeff Green.
Congratulations. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
We're not ready for you. Just want to see if you're in the,
I was pulled in.
I thought you was in the building. Congratulations, Jeff. And it's such an important thing that you guys do to keep us straight and promote the agency. It's well beyond my knowledge, and it's awesome that there's people like you that can do these things, and so we certainly appreciate you. At this time, we'll move on to our Wildlife Management Committee that has a report from us from yesterday. Chairman Trey Teague.
Thank you, Chairman McMillan. This time I'd like to ask Darrell Radijak to come up and give us a brief overview of Proclamation 14-02.
Hi, I guess I'm on now. I was just pulled in from the outside. Sorry about that. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner Teague. What I want to do today is just give you a very brief, if I could find it, a very brief reminder of what occurred yesterday. Yesterday, Chuck Yost, our Wild Hog Coordinator, presented to the Wildlife Committee an amendment to Proclamation 13-09, and he brought forward Proclamation 14-02. And simply stated, it would amend the previous proclamation to remove some language and insert new language that says individuals licensed to hunt bears may take wild hogs during any proclaimed bear dog hunt. We come before you and ask that you accept this proclamation.
Chairman McMillan, yesterday the Wildlife Management Committee voted, and I recommend passage of Proclamation 14-02, amendment to Proclamation 13-09.
Second. All those in favor of passage of Proclamation 14-02, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, proclamation passes. Right there.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, we'll move on to the Budget Committee. Chairman Griggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to call Ken Tarkton, Chief of Administrative Services. Would you give us a financial report, please, sir?
Yes, sir, I'd be delighted to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you would review or look in your books, there should be a two-page financial report through the month of December 2013. At the top of the page, the boating fund is detailed as far as income. We're approximately 19% ahead in income of the amount where we were at this point in time last year. The expenses approximate almost 30% of the annual allotment. The middle of the page, the wildlife fund, we're a little ahead of last year, approximately 1.5%. If you'll look just right below the wildlife portion, it says senior citizen license monthly sales. This was by request of the commission last month. For the month of December, the senior senior license sales were 395 licenses. As far as the expenses through this point in time, we're at approximately 38, almost 39% of the year's allotment. At the bottom of the page, the watchable of the two endowment funds, the watchable wildlife endowment has approximately $5.8 million in available balance to use, $6,500, and as soon as the interest is posted thus far this year, then that will increase somewhat. The Lifetime Sportsman Endowment is, the fund balance is at almost $36 million. At the top of the next page, the second page, the acquisition, the Wetlands Acquisition Fund, has $11,741,000. We've zeroed the maintenance account out as we usually do in the middle of the page. And towards the bottom of the page, the Department of Finance Administration has transferred, as they usually do about this time of year, the in lieu of tax funding from the wetlands account, acquisition account to the compensation, and we have a little over $801,000 balance there. Thus far, we've not received the certification from the Comptroller's Office to pay in lieu of tax. That usually comes later in the fiscal year, probably around the May timeframe. Any questions or comments?
Any questions from the commission? Audience? Thank you, Ken. Back to
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
No, but they're nice.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Griggs. Our next order of business is in the January meeting, I selected a nominating committee that consisted of, for new officers, that consisted of Commissioner Cox, Commissioner Stroud, and Commissioner Watson. So do y'all have a recommendation for a slate of officers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So it won't have to, I won't do it later. I would like to take just a second to comment about your leadership this year. I think that your efforts of communication to keep everybody informed, your leadership in difficult, whether it's the hogs or whether it's the sandhill crane or some legislative nuances, I think that you have done an outstanding job, and that you've kept the commission pointed in the right direction, and you've kept it lighthearted, and it's been a really good year. The nominating committee discussed at length, and the nominations for next year for the leadership of the commission are for Chairman, Commissioner Jeff Griggs, for Vice Chairman, Commissioner Jim Bledsoe, and for Secretary, Commissioner Harold Cannon.
Thank y'all. Thank you for the work you've done. We'll entertain any nominations from the commission at this time. Okay, well then, do I hear a second for the slate of officers that were nominated by the nominating committee? Second. All those in favor of the slate of officers of Griggs as the chairman, Bledsoe as vice chairman, and Harold Cannon as the secretary, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, congratulations. I'd like to make a few comments before I pass the gavel to Chairman Griggs. I want to thank the commission in this past year for having the confidence to let me lead them, and I enjoyed it. I know sometimes I had to lean on Cheryl to keep from butchering the parliamentary procedures sometimes, and I appreciate her keeping me straight there. But obviously I do keep it lighthearted, because life's pretty serious in general, and we're here to serve the agency and to serve the lights and soda, but also here to enjoy ourselves, and so I tried to keep it that way. But I do appreciate the confidence you had in me, and that you gave me the chance to serve. It was an honor, and I certainly appreciate it. Do want to thank the chairs of my committee. I want to thank the agency and the regional managers, and I want to thank You know, the Bobby Wilson and Daryl Radchat are just great people to work with. I want to thank Barbara. Obviously, I was the first chairman as in her role, obviously, and she's not as crusty as everybody thinks. She's a good, I was a little more, probably more concerned with that than anything, but we got along great. And she was very good when I made a lot of changes at the last minute, and she didn't call me too many names, at least not to my face. So, but I certainly appreciate her, and it goes without saying how much I appreciate Ed Carter, because of the way my work schedule structured. I usually called him during his lunch or at night or on the weekends, and he was very respectful of my time, and I certainly appreciate that. It was just a good year. I think we accomplished some good things over the year. I think the crane issue, I think, went well. We obviously will always be dealing with hogs, but I thought that we did accomplish some good things. And the last person I want to thank is my wife. She puts up with a lot because, especially when we're driving down here, and she has to have it on speakerphone so I can drive safe, and she has to listen. She knows more about hogs and cranes than most of the commission does. So I do appreciate her support, and she's been supporting me for a long time, and hopefully a long time more. So I do appreciate that. But it's been a good year. I do want to challenge the new slate of officers. I think that if this commission has a legacy that people remember us from, I'm hoping it's because that we take the proper steps to be able to fund this agency from now on. And I think we definitely have some challenges. We talked about it a lot this year, and I look forward in the next year, hopefully, that we can actually take action. So I do think that should be our legacy, is that we are able to fund this agency. And we have some challenges with that, and but I think that we're making the right steps, but we need to go ahead and push the buttons and take care of that. And that'll be my challenge for the next slate of officers. So with that, I'll pass the gavel to a well-deserved Chairman Griggs, and I know the meetings and his representation across the state will be, and his leadership for this commission will be something we'll all be proud of.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wished you would have shared with the crowd the story about how you were driving home one day for a commission meeting, and Debbie was having to listen to it, and when you got to Chattanooga, Debbie thought you was carrying her on vacation. You drove to Chattanooga instead of home to Bristol, correct?
Actually, that was the last June when or May, after we, on the hog thing, and some of the things that we were discussing, and I believe I was talking to a representative of their group, and I got on 840 because we were trying to miss the traffic, and I just got on the first interstate heading east, and she was asleep. She woke up about an hour later, and we were in McMinn County or somewhere. She said, "Why does it say Jack Daniel's Distillery?" That's how we were saying 40. So we took a scenic route home.
As I take over from Dr. McMillan as chairman, my first task must be to express on behalf of our commission our great gratitude. It's been mentioned before by Commissioner Cox and a few others. And Dr., your hard work and leadership as chairman, I echo what they're saying. And during his tenure, which I might add that Debbie thought would never end, and has today, most notable, I'd like to mention the Sandhill Crane too. You bringing both sides together, and you're to be commended for that as well. I agree that you made the meetings fun, and you tried to bring us together as a group, and I appreciate you for that too. At this time, Doc, on behalf of the entire commission and agency, I'd like to present this chairman's plaque as a small token of gratitude for all that you've done throughout your term as commission.
Well, thank you.
Good job.
There's been a lot of talk that once I turn this chairmanship away, that I'm not going to be, I'm going to be sit down to retire in a rocking chair down next to the podium, but I beg to differ. I'm still going to be here, and I'm hopefully going to be an important cog in your administration. So you lost another dollar, okay?
If you would stick around, and we'll get a picture with the plaque afterwards. I do want to thank the commission for your confidence in me to elect me as chair. It's an honor, and I want you to know, you and the agency, I'll take it seriously. And I agree with you, former Chairman Millen, on the challenges that we have before us, and I look forward to working with this group. Several of you have asked me about dates for the entire year. I have those. I would like to meet with Director Carter about those and make sure there's no conflicts with the agency and that we can work it out. And I will be getting, I'll have Barbara to email those to you pretty shortly. I will go ahead, and as far as, I'll say this, as far as committee chair appointments in the committees, I'll be getting that out in the next week or two. And I will, if you don't get your pens and papers out, I'll go ahead and give you the next 3 meetings. March, we will be meeting on Wednesday, Thursday. Don't confuse that as how we usually do Thursday, Friday. Be March 26th and 27th. And I'll get with Chris Richardson. We plan on spending Wednesday on the 26th on the Hill with the legislators. I hope all of y'all can attend that day. I think it's very important that we do that. So we'll have a one-day meeting on Thursday, the 27th. And I think also that's the governor's one-shot turkey that weekend, and I hope a lot of y'all can stick around for that. April 24th and 25th, Director Carter, correct me if I'm wrong, is that our 65th anniversary? And that will be up in the barn. So we'll have April 24th, 25th, and then May 22, 23. And all of these will be in Nashville, and hope everybody can make it. Director Carter, do you have any more announcements you might want to make?
Yes, just want to take this opportunity to also say from the agency and all the staff that how much we appreciate Commissioner McMillan and his leadership over the last year, his ability to listen to me rant and rave sometimes and then come back and keep a cool hand and a steady hand on all that we did. And I have to admit, when he's working and in the background I hear that, it just drives me nuts. But well, it depends. There was screaming at times, that's for sure, mostly from me. But anyway, we really do appreciate it. Thanks for all you did for all of us. And before I forget, I didn't make any personal comments about Stephen and what he's done as the officer down there, because Darren pretty well covered that. But did want to say thank you, and Brian and Captain Elkins, for all the stuff that they've done. That when you hear all the background that goes into those selections, it gives you an idea of what our people do. I'm just very proud of them. But anyway, back to you, Mr. Millen and Debbie. Thank you for putting up with all the times I called you at night and looking for Jeff. So thanks a lot on behalf of the agency. Thank you very much.
Does anyone on the commission have anything they'd like to say? There will be several.
Oh, I think we all want to, but Doc, for me, and I know I speak for everybody, you inspired us to be better people, and it flowed into being better commissioners. But when I first got on the commission, you took the time to educate me and just sort of, in your very soft-hearted way, work with my ignorance and try to educate me and fill me in on things I needed to know. As far as what you've done as a chairman, we're a better commission. I think we have evolved faster because of you, and it's all kinds of ways. And I really think for all of us, you're our friend. You know, I would describe you as velvet-covered steel. And I think you're pretty cool. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to just echo the comments that have been made and thank the nominating committee for the decisions that they have made. It was an excellent selection of a committee. They've made a tremendous recommendation to us. I'm excited about the future, but I remember when James and I and our class of new commissioners came to the commission, there was a great deal of turmoil in terms of transition and relationships, and you had a very clear vision on how you wanted to proceed forward, where the commission and the agency would begin the process of building new and strong relationships, and that's not easy. So I want to echo the comments from both James and Bill, because that is not an easy thing to do. And you've not only done it, you've done it beautifully, and have I think, put the commission and the agency in a partnership for the first time in quite a while. And we've got more room to grow in building a stronger partnership with the folks that we work with to serve the mission of this agency and the citizens that we represent. But I really appreciate that. That is not an easy thing to do, and especially with all of us who are volunteers and who are trying to dedicate some amount of time to advancing the mission of the agency and serving the folks of the state. And I really appreciate it. I also just appreciate the attitude that you convey information with. It's always with respect. It's always with a kind heart, but it's also very focused. And you have not hesitated to say no when you thought it was appropriate. And that is a sign of a good leader. And I really appreciate the work that you've put into place. And for the new officers, I'm really excited about this next step and the challenge that the former chairman has given to all of us. And just for Harold, the new member of the officers committee, this is an exciting time. So look forward to the next year, but congratulations on a job well done, and I'm glad that you can continue to push and challenge the commission on our work in the next year and ahead.
Thank you very much. I've never been somebody that accepts compliments very well. I like to dish them out. I like to stay ahead, but those are awfully nice comments, and I do appreciate it. It's been a pleasure, and I consider all y'all my closest friends now, so I do appreciate that.
Jeff,
We're not done.
Jeff, I would like to add, for the new guy on the commission, you made it really easy coming aboard and everything else, and you know, and just, as you know, I'm short to the point, but you are a true leader, and I enjoyed serving with you.
I think it does take a couple to fulfill that role. And Debbie, your hospitality, your graciousness, whenever we've had these functions has been absolutely remarkable. And so the commission thanks you as well, because we know you've made a lot of sacrifices. There's something very appropriate about talking about hogs and ending up at Jack Daniels. That just, there's just something that was just meant. That was meant to be. But Jeff, our relationship began as commissioner, and I truly consider you one of my closest friends, and one of those that's just so valued. And I think we need to remember, you have always kept us on track. You've reminded us of things that needed to be implemented. You know, the kids' elk hunt. You didn't let anybody forget that. By golly, it's in place, and it's an example for the rest of this country of what we need to be about, and that's kids. Your challenge to us fiscally is consistent with the way you have handled and managed this commission, and we're going to need your help in doing that very thing. And I continue to respect and be in awe of every time we would have a commission meeting out of town. You've always been very thankful, very gracious to the people here, but you made a point to acknowledge those folks in those regions that made a difference. And as you said, you are the master at giving out compliments and appreciation. And I hope I have confidence Chairman Griggs will continue that. We as commissioners need to continue that as well.
Chairman McMillan, as it's been said several times, you have been an exceptional leader, and I obviously consider you a great friend, but you're still moving down to that seat by the pulpit, and I realize some of these guys have said, I've still got a room for the game in Bristol, right? Yeah. Okay, I know these guys, right, I mean, they're trying to get a spot in the house right now, I think is what's happening, so.
She's the booking director.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you very much for your service and what you've done for the state as a whole and for all of us.
The rest of my term, it's gonna be a sad day in my house when this is over, so, it knows how serious I take this and how much I love this agency and this commission, so it'll be a big part of my life, and that's gonna continue.
I want to echo everybody's sentiments, and Harold, especially to Miss Debbie. I've stayed at y'all's house more than once, and it's always just been awesome. And my wife and kids have been to the zoo with Debbie and everything else. So, but and having served on 2 commissions with you, the former one and the current one, you have been a leader from the get-go, not just as chairman, but you've always shown leadership going through and through some tough times. I don't think we'd be where we are without you being in that position. So I just want to say thank you, and I don't think you're going to be quietly sitting in a rocking chair over there, because quietly is just not in your demeanor. So I just want to say thank you again.
You're welcome. I'd say it's going to take maybe a couple hours to get my head back in, of course, we can get back in the car, correct? So she'll bring me back down the sides, right, and she'll let me know where we're going, so, but I appreciate it, and guys, I don't think we're done now. Let everybody get fit.
Hello, Jeff. You are a leader, as we have all said, and we all believe that, and you do it with gentle, good humor. Some of that humor you poke at yourself. More importantly, you poke at Director Carter. And that has meant a lot to me in my time. And I certainly hope you will bring her back, as she does seem to be a great equalizer for you. Amen.
Mr. Former Chairman, Dr. President Commissioner McMillan, Jeff, thank you for your leadership. I number you among my friends. We all number you among our friends. You have been a great asset to this commission and this agency, and the state should be very proud of your leadership, and we certainly are. Thank you.
You need to get a tape and keep it for his eulogy, because nobody will ever talk good about him like we have, ever.
I'm a dentist that nobody really likes, and I appreciate football and like that, so it's kind of nice to hear something that said nice about you. You might play once a week for you. No, I appreciate it. And guys, I look forward to our future of our friendship, and I know it's not going to end here. And like I say, I'm still going to be around and bringing lots of dollar bets for Beals. So.
I believe Director Carter, if you got something you want to add.
Yes, sir. This is nothing about Jeff, so, well, okay, I like you too. But I just wanted to mention, if you have the chance to go back to the Turkey Federation, the exhibit halls are open today, and they are amazing. It packs the entire Opryland Hotel exhibit halls. Whatever passes you had last night, of those, whatever they call them, the badges that you ran around your neck, will also get you into the exhibit hall. Just want to mention that to you. If you didn't have one last night and you plan on going, please let me know. But again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for all you've done.
Anyone from the audience have any comments, questions? If not, we stand adjourned.